Hi friends, Amy here. Welcome to The Activity Continues. Today we have a special treat for you. We are interviewing the clients from the most recent episode of The Dead Files. That would be season 15, episode 7. This is the Maurer family. You remember Donalyn, Dennis, and Regan. They are all joining us today for our interview. We had a great time talking about some behind the scenes stuff of the shooting of the Dead Files, as well as the outcome, which is not the same as what the show said. So stay tuned for that. So please enjoy our interview with the Maurer family.
They were sweet.
They were.
I enjoyed that.
That was really fun.
They were delightful.
Yeah. That was
and Dennis was a cutie patootie.
Yeah.
I knew you would go for that right away.
Yeah.
They were all delightful.
Yeah, that was nice.
See, this goes back to my theory of how people come across on the show, because like when Steve opened it, because of course I watched it this morning.
I did too.
He said they've tried everything and they're at their wits' end. Mm-hmm. And they kind of talk through like, we've gone through this. They didn't really say how long, we got more about how long stuff has been happening from them in this conversation now. But they come across much more than like the last ones we recorded last week, where there was something off, that feeling of
where she was like, it's only paranormal reason that my marriage is failing. And it's like,
and my diabetes is paranormal.
Oh my God, I could not with that. Like, are you kidding me? Your diabetes is paranormal, lady? She was over the top, but they were genuine.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Jordan's hand, foot, and mouth disease
it probably was paranormal. I'm going to call the Dead Files.
I didn't even think of that, but I bet you're absolutely right.
And my cold.
You were sick at the same time. It had to be the ghosts.
There's no other explanation.
Absolutely
There's nothing other it could be.
No.
None.
No.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a gem. But I mean, honestly, who have we talked to who has not been great?
I know. All the clients we've had on have been so much fun and so cool.
They were.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we watch together?
Yeah, we could watch on Friday. Like if you want to come over after work and we could watch the show and then talk about it.
Yeah.
So we could watch the show and eat something, have some drinks.
And then talk about it right after.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay,
boom,
cool.
Boom, boom, done.
And then... boom, 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 boom. Want you in my room. From now until
boom, 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 boom. Something in my room. We'll spend the night together.
You have no idea the amount of partial songs that played through my head last week when I was in the Boundary Waters, because it just starts and they all blend together, and then you start at the beginning, but it's only like 2 sentences out of every song that plays.
I do that anytime John says a word. I'll immediately sing a song, and he gets real frustrated by it. And I'm like, look, babe, you've been in this for 7 years.
You should have known this when he married you.
You knew what you said.
I sound like I hid this. When we first started dating, I told him if I was a superhero, it would be Lyric Girl, because I know all the songs. So.
Which isn't that's your fantasy football team name? No,
okay.
That was just a fun episode. I felt like it, watching it and then being able to talk to the people right afterwards and be able to understand like what I thought. The editing, by the way, was better in this episode than it's been the rest of the season.
I agree.
And that's why I wanted to ask, like, did you feel like it was edited in a way that represented what you thought? There were a few areas that I thought were confusing, but if people listen to the rest of the episode, they'll find out from Donalyn and Dennis how it's not as confusing.
That's right. Yeah, they cleared up some stuff that we were confused about. Mm-hmm. They told some extra stories about what's going on. Yeah, I almost did too. That was
sweet. Yeah,
I got chills when Dennis was talking about the Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I mean, they were just really a genuine family, and I was so glad that they agreed to talk to us, because I really enjoyed speaking with them.
Yeah, me too. And now I want to read some of Donalyn's books.
I know. I'm totally going to go to Amazon and buy some. Because I love a good romance.
As she was talking about, it's like, well, if she does go into the do some ghosty type books. I do have an author that I love who does that, and she's Minnesota based, and she does So if you've ever been to like Superior Bayfields, you'll understand some of the places that she talks about. I think she's Minnesota based. She's either Minnesota or Wisconsin. But
is her last name Miller? I totally can't
Nope.
remember.
No,
Wendy Webb is who I'm talking about.
No, I know, but what's Donalyn's last name?
Maurer.
Maurer?
Maurer, I believe. I just got an email from
Falling into Blue. Oh my God.
It's Maurer. And she just sent me an email.
MAU. Yes. Falling into Blue, a McGinty's of San Antonio series. Now, I'm reading this. Oh, it looks so cute. Yep, and it's $0 with Kindle Unlimited, which I'm a part of.
Oh, good.
So downloading that right now.
Good.
So what'd she send you in an email, Amy?
It says we had so much fun. Thank you. XOXO.
Love
So
them.
sweet.
Yeah.
What is that?
Did you have a Mitch McConnell moment or something?
I just realized when I open my mouth, you can see my dongle.
I know. I was looking right at it.
It looks like my northern I caught the other day when they had a hook in the roof of his mouth.
Hopefully I'm not as slimy as a northern.
Oh, this one, she broke the line on it, but it was just, I just saw the mouth coming out like this, and you reminded me of that.
I'm special.
I love it.
Did you forget the camera was on?
No, that's why I was doing it.
You're looking at her.
That's right.
Looking at her dongle.
Yeah, I can see my dongle.
Anyways, friends, enjoy the episode. We sure enjoyed it.
Enjoy it.
They're a great family.
They were great.
Yep.
Yeah. These where you can like spray it and it's like hair.
I'm pretty sure there's a higher level guy at my work that looks like he just sprayed.
Okay, Donna, I can see you now.
Hey, look at that.
Hey.
I can see you.
Hey. I'm going to have to hold my phone, I think, and just kind of walk around and see if I can keep the signal.
It says there's a warning on yours. Your line has a warning. It's probably just internet. I was seeing that up in the little box up above. It was saying that it was buffering or trying to find internet, but we'll work on it.
Well, but we got both of you now, so.
Yeah.
Did Regan call in yet?
Yeah, she's here, just not on camera.
Yep. She's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. She's in her PJs.
Oh.
And I'm jealous.
I mean, I'm a step above that in a sweatshirt and leggings, so.
I'm just.
Oh.
Same.
That's all right.
Hey, Regan.
It's like in the.
Hello.
It's like in the we were in the pandemic, and I'd be like dressed nicely on top for a Zoom.
Yeah, it's called the
meetings,
work
and then,
mullet.
Sweats on bottom. Yeah.
The work mullet.
Yep.
Nice up top, sweats.
Yep. Party up top,
That's
sweats
right.
on the bottom.
Yep.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys so much for agreeing to do this. We are so grateful every time people agree to talk to us, and we just watched your episode. I know it just came out, and so we're so thankful. So first and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with us.
Oh no, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Of course. So what we generally do is just let you know that what you want to share is what is the most important thing. So anything that you want to tell us about the activity in your house, or about the recording of the show, or about Steve's height, or whatever, that's the important part.
The drone footage.
Yes, drone usage. All of it's come up.
Okay, let's just cover the drone usage first. Dennis, you can cover that. He was like, oh my God, the yard looks horrible. The house had burned down next door, and they had a porta potty out front. They had been working on it for 2.5 years, and he was like, oh my God. And we had a pool installed, so the yard was dug up and everything. And so when they did that drone footage, it was like, so for the man of the house, he was like, oh my God, the yard looks terrible.
Yeah, it's just, that's not a big deal. It's just, it looked terrible. So
I didn't get anything.
I honestly don't think they use drone footage unless I'm forgetting about it. But
I saw a lot with like the car driving. I
They
think
do it
there
over
was
the neighborhood too.
there was like one
Yeah.
shot maybe where
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it must have been a hot summer or something, but having a pool put in, that would explain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We've heard before that Steve is not the biggest fan of the drone footage because they made him take a lot of retakes somewhere,
Like
and
walking up
he's
to the
just like,
house,
why,
and then they don't use it.
And then they don't
Yeah.
end up using. So
Good.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
everybody
Yeah.
was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. That's what everyone says
and
too.
that's what we've heard so many times, that Steve is
Mhm.
just so delightful, which is really how it comes across. Like every time we watch the show, I always have such a big soft spot for Steve because he genuinely seems to care about the people. And when he gives people hankies, it just like tears at my little heartstrings because
Well,
I'm like, who carries hankies in like 2023? But Steve Jashavi does.
Yeah, I got mine.
Yay!
So yeah,
Oh,
he really does. I mean, it was like when you're nervous, he just kind of comes in there and sits with you. Like he ate with us, he ate dinner with us, and just lunch, and just kind of like before you were shooting and said, okay, so just talking about anything but the show, talking about where you live, the house, cars,
Yeah.
whatever,
nice.
completely putting you at ease before you go in there. And then he really does care. That's not a lie. When he looks concerned, he gets concerned.
Yeah.
He gets mad,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good.
One thing that I've noticed just watching some older episodes and then watching yours especially is with Steve, I think he's got that bullshit meter down pat, because there are some episodes where you can see and he's just kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling it so much. But I didn't see that with you guys when he was talking with you, because you also kind of stated like, we've tried everything to try and figure out what's going on. And he calls
and
it
especially
out.
Dennis being the logical brain that Amy P is. Like, I can,
I related.
Dennis is. We could see him really struggling. Like, I'm trying to logically explain this away, and that's what Steve does. And so yeah, it was just such a good episode. Like, it really was heartfelt. And the video of Dennis falling off the
God,
ladder.
how many times did we have to watch that?
Oh my God, I got like,
yeah, they showed it over and over. I didn't
almost a half dozen times.
We get it.
Yeah, it was really, because that day I was telling everybody that day that it happened, I had just walked outside. We were having a like Christmas movie PJ family night, and he was hanging lights, and I had just walked outside. He was fine. I walked back in to do something, and I walked back outside like just seconds later to tell him I was going to go jump in the shower. And he was sitting on the bench, and I was like, hey, I'm going to take a shower. And I walked over, and I just saw like blood on his head and stuff. And I said, what happened? He goes, I fell, I think. So he had somehow, he lost consciousness, came
You
up.
could see in the video.
Yeah, he was out.
Yeah.
And then he kind of stumbled through the yard somehow. And then because we have the Nest Cam, he made it to the porch and was sitting there in a daze. He didn't even know what had happened. And when I called 911 and EMS came, they had said, do you have the Nest? Do you have footage? And that was the first time I saw it. And I was there. The EMS guy said, oh yeah, you got to go. And he was really badly hurt.
Oh, it looked like it.
Well, I know even Cindy made a comment, because so these two know, like, my brain has to go through the logic. Dennis, we're talking right now about your fall off the ladder.
Oh, yeah.
And how many times they showed that, and I was watching.
Once would have been enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have rewound it and watched it, but I definitely was looking. I was like, his hands weren't even touching the ladder. Like, your arms weren't even touching the ladder, and you see that leg moves out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And see, we hadn't noticed that till Steve pointed it out, and off camera, he had turned it around. He said, watch the leg. And you see that one leg. Dennis isn't moving, and it's kicked out.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh, wow, this puts a whole new level on what's going on, right now.
And it was like so sudden, he couldn't even brace himself. Like, holy
shit.
Sorry, but
I told Steve, 1,000, I've been on ladders thousands of times, and And the ladder shifts sometimes, and I can catch myself, but I didn't. My hands weren't on anything. They were up in the air. I think I was putting lights up or something, and
Right.
Lights.
Right.
yeah. So when it happened, I just I had nowhere to go but down.
Well, I mean, Dennis, the one thing that I saw that was really intriguing is because probably you've been on ladders so often, your body reacted to protect your head because you turned and really fully went down flat on your back.
Yes.
And yes, you still hit your head, but I mean, a lot of people hit shoulder head and then, have a lot more damage there rather than flat on the back, which you still had damage.
Yes,
obviously.
yes. My head was bleeding, and as I mentioned, I did have some bleeding inside the brain, but
The brain.
but the doctor said it was just a little bit, and then I stayed in the hospital for a couple of days, and they monitored it, and I was good to go. So
Good.
And what was weird
we're
was
glad.
I had walked outside, checked on, I was going in and out, because even though he's been on a ladder and he does this on his job daily, I had been in and out. Regan had just come in. We had been going in and out, checking on him. And it was right when he was done. He was putting the last staple in. And I'm going up to take a shower. Regan walks in and it happens.
Yeah.
He was done. He was done putting up the light.
He was waiting for you.
He was waiting. And that's what it was. It's like he was done.
It was.
He said
the guy, the butcher was waiting for you guys both to be away so nobody could help him.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Scary. Oh, it's so scary.
So speaking of the butcher, I know that Cindy talked about him a ton during her walk, and it wasn't really talked about in the reveal. Did she talk about him more during the reveal? Because we know that those reveals are hours long and they cut most of it. But how much did she talk about him in the reveal?
What they were saying was there wasn't a lot known about him other than what they did actually share on the show.
Okay.
There, he had been suspected of these feeding these women to to alligators and things like that, and all this other stuff, but nothing was ever proven. And when the police went out there to question him, they weren't even going to make an arrest. They were just like, "Hey, what's going on here? These women are missing." He shot himself. And so that's really, I even looked up to see if I could research, something with it. And I couldn't find any more than what they found.
Really?
Well, and I mean, it's not like he doesn't have an uncommon name. Joseph, was it Ball or Bull?
Bull.
Okay.
Joe Bull. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I swear every time Steve said it, it sounded different in the last name did. But
the Brooklyn accent.
Yeah. I was intrigued a little bit because it sounded like when Cindy was going through, she was talking about the butcher, but then the old man with treating Regan like his daughter that he lost. And so I was wondering if there was at times it seemed like the two of them were kind of woven together because she was talked about, reminds me of my daughter that I lost, that you gave up and left on the side of the road.
I was just going to say, you didn't lose her.
Threw her on the side of the road.
But then
we're looking at
went,
you,
at least the way they edited it went straight to the butcher. And then it didn't seem like they really talked about the old man.
Yeah, they had brought up my grandfather, and he did lose a daughter.
I know.
Okay.
So he had lost a daughter. And here's another fun fact that y'all didn't get to see. So Cindy, I think on her website, she was beautiful, amazing, kind, everything.
Yeah.
She had done a personal sketch of for Regan of her protector in the house.
Oh my God.
And during they showed the picture, Cindy gave her the picture, and when they cut, I looked at Regan and I said, "That is my grandma, her great grandma." But they had identified her, which they cut it out as an Italian nun from the 16th century or something like that. And I said, I told Regan, I said, "That's grandma." And she said, "Yeah, that's grandma." So I even showed it to family members, and I said, who does this look like? No prompting. They said, oh, that's grandma. And I said, okay. So it was kind of nice to know that my grandmother and my grandfather
Yeah.
were here. But
I love that.
yeah, but
That's
they did lose a daughter.
okay.
So that was kind of
Oh,
confusing to
okay.
me too. They lost her at
Yeah.
birth.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I would say the way that they cut it made it look like they were trying to connect
The
it
butcher.
to the original
Oh,
homeowner,
Simon. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Simon, who had threatened Edna to marrying
5
him and
kids.
then
Yeah.
left
Right,
his
then-
5-year-olds.
He was
Oh,
great.
Ophelia,
He was just a
Ophelia.
delightful person. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've gone to a psychic a few times with Amy, and she tells me every time that my maternal grandmother is with me, who I never
Yeah.
met. She passed a couple months before my parents got married, and they've been married 50 years. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so she's been with me pretty much, she said, my whole life,
That's so
which is
cool.
so
Yeah.
That
nice
is nice.
I recently
to
had
have that.
my
So I'm
great-grandmother come through as one of my angels, so I was curious if there was any conversation. You said protector, if your grandfather was posted as kind of like he's one of your angels, because she said he's always with you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, go
No,
ahead,
I was
Dennis.
just going to say, yeah, they had said that your grandfather was your protector, and for Reagan, grandma was the spirit guide, I think is what Cindy said.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, spirit guide.
Yeah.
We all have those, yeah.
And she said
Oh,
that
that's so
she's
sweet.
always with Reagan or near Reagan. So,
Yeah.
Oh my God, that just melts my heart. I love that for
yeah.
you, Reagan.
And she said when
And how wonderful.
she said when the butcher was attacking her, that my grandmother would actually lay, or the nun, whichever you want to say,
Yeah.
would lay over Reagan
Oh.
and kind of
Oh my
protect
God, I'm
her
gonna cry.
from the butcher. So she would lay over her and kind of block whatever was coming at Reagan.
You know,
That's
That
amazing.
is. Wow.
Reagan, are you there?
I have to say
Oh my
that,
God.
what before the episode came out, I kind of wondered, if before we knew that it was coming on, if they were gonna air our episode, because I thought, God, we didn't, as far as, especially my part, I didn't really offer a whole lot, and I thought, is there enough for an episode? But then when we saw the episode, I was really surprised, and it was really good. I thought, because they had those characters that we never met, we didn't see them with with the research that was done and everything. So it turned out really, really good. And what they showed it was kind of a surprise. Also, I really wasn't sure. I knew the butcher was going to be in there, but all that other information with the plane crashes and all that stuff, I thought, wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool, because
No.
Steve did talk to us about his investigation and some of the things he found, and he kind of in a sense of, well, we'll see what Cindy finds, and he talked to us about a whole array of things, so it was really, really interesting to see how it all came out on the show. It was really good.
Well,
Yeah.
that's really cool. And speaking of the way that you're talking about that leads to a question I had of how did you feel watching it with the way it was edited? Do you feel that anything that you wanted to say was left out, or something that would have made more of a connection, like we just discovered with your grandfather and grandmother losing a child at birth? Was there anything else that you felt that was different?
Well, for me, one thing I wanted to say was I was raised by my grandparents. I love them dearly. I was just an infant. So they, for all intents and purposes, that's my mom and dad.
Yep.
But I did know my birth parents because they were my paternal grandparents. And they're both wonderful, so I think one thing that bothered me when I said, he's my father, he's my dad. I do have a dad that I know today, and I want to acknowledge him as being really awesome and,
good.
stuff like that. He didn't raise me, but, we have a relationship that's beautiful and it's on itself.
Good.
So and my mom passed away. We didn't have the best relationship, me and my birth mom.
Sure.
But when we did other investigations, it was my mom that actually showed up that was protecting me.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so she came through. So it was like me and my mom made up after her death. It was kind of like one of those things. We kind of like came to terms.
I can understand that,
Sweet.
not with parents, but with a friend who has passed and having had that connection. of
Yeah.
we're all good now.
That's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
So you mentioned that you had other investigations. Are you comfortable talking about what those were like and kind of the results from those?
It was so funny because the other ones we had, when things, okay, so I'll try to make it a long story short. We built the house in 2004.
Okay.
And when we were building, I remember seeing a news broadcast where the Native Americans in the area were suing the builder because this was considered hollowed ground and all this other stuff. And I remember telling Dennis, I don't want nothing. I saw poltergeist. I don't want anything to do with that business, leave me out here. Oh, no. So it was settled. However, we ended up moving out here. We moved in 2004. And
Okay.
immediately it was, for me, it was not good. I think Regan, are you there, Regan? She had experiences. Julia had experiences. And it was just one of those things where it came to a head one night. Dennis and I had an argument. He left and went to work. And I was laying in bed, and a girl appeared at the door, peeking in. She kind of leaned in like that and looked in, and I said, "I'm done. We're out. We're done."
Yep.
And
same.
That's it. Call it quits. We're done. We're out. So
cut your losses.
yeah,
move.
we're done. So I told Dennis, we got to go. We got to get out of this house. And so he took an assignment to DC. So when he got the assignment, took it, we had put the house up for sale and it wouldn't sell. So we did that whole thing where we'll rent it till it sells. And so we had we're military. So we had 3 different military families renting the house that rented before they bought their own and whatever. So we lived in Virginia on a military base up there. And so when he retired, and we were coming back, we still had the house, and I was like, I don't know, And so he rationalized. I said, oh, we've had 3 different families living in there. Nobody's ever said anything about, what's going on. So we moved back in, and it just picked up right where it left off, and then it intensified, and it was like one of those things. Well, that's when I got the cameras and set them up because I would tell Dennis, something's going on in the kitchen. And I'd say, things are falling, things are doing this and that. And so I bought a camera for the kitchen. And then things started happening in the bedroom. And I bought a camera for the bedroom. And I was saying, they think I'm crazy. They think I'm loony. But then I was able to show them things. And the psychic that I worked with locally, the different psychics, they didn't want to come in without teams. They would be like, we'll see if we can get people together and come in, but we're not coming in again by ourselves. And I'd say, okay. And that's when somebody recommended calling the Dead Files, and they'll bring in a team.
Nice.
So that's what we did.
Okay. So the way that the show ended, as you know, it just says that you're still looking for a medium. Is that the case, or have you found somebody? Are you good? Is the house okay? What's the status on that?
Cindy, the producer, called with some recommendations from Cindy, and I got in contact with one, and she was like, well, if I can find somebody to come with me, I'll come. But then she never showed up. And then another one that was in Austin, just, less than a couple hundred miles down the road. I talked to her on the phone, and she told me what I needed to do. And so we talked for like an hour or so on the phone, and she just said, do these things. And if it doesn't work, I'll come down, but I think you can do it.
Okay.
And so I did what she said, and the house has been wonderful.
Great.
Oh, wow.
It's
good.
been
Really?
I mean,
awesome.
We still have visitors, that kind of, hang about or whatever, but it's nothing anywhere
Not
close
one trying to.
The butcher's
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
he's
And
gone.
the portal is closed, right, Donna?
Yeah, I think they're still, like they told me how to put a force field around the house, protection, like a cube and around myself and things. One of the things that I was measuring activity by was the camera in the bedroom. The orbs that would come through, they would come through and they'd all head to the bathroom. It was like a 5-minute deal. They come in from all the walls and head into the bathroom, and then at sun up, they'd head out, and you could just count
I mean,
them.
you gotta go. You
Yeah,
gotta
you
go.
gotta
You got to go to
go.
work, I think.
You can't stay
Living dead.
here.
You gotta go potty.
I don't know where you're going, but you can't stay here. But
Yep.
yeah, and so it was one of
Good
those
song.
things
Good
where it
song.
was like I was measuring activity. I would see things or feel things at night and kind of signal the camera so I could go back and look and see if I saw something on the camera that coincided with what I felt.
Mm.
So since I did that thing that Tiffany, the medium out of Austin, told me, I very seldom even see
Awesome.
one orb come through.
Well, good. Good.
Great. Oh, we're so glad to
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
that.
Everything's
I
good, man.
love it when people
Good.
can
Good.
live their life with not mean
Yeah.
spirits
Definitely.
hanging
And
about.
so speaking of that portal, I again got a little confusion because at one point it said that Cindy was saying that somebody opened it there, but then later on she was in the kitchen and she goes, "It's here, it's under the ground," like when they were digging it. So was there anything that clarified what she was feeling? Because I'm sure that it's all connected.
So there was a psychic that came in, Katrina, before her, and I had been contacted by them. They wanted to come check out the house because one of the things that I was seeing was soldiers. I kept seeing soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
soldiers. So this guy, he was an investigator, and he contacted me, and he was like, I guess he worked with her, and we were kind of talking simultaneously, and she was seeing soldiers. So he was like, "Can we come out?" And I said, "Yeah, anything, please help, you know." And so when she came out, she had told me that there was 3 different cemeteries off in the distance that the spirits were just coming to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when Cindy came, she had said there's a portal, you know, in the kitchen, and there was another picture drawn, and it was almost like a manhole in the ground, and
Yep.
spirits are just climbing out,
It's
just one after
exactly
the
how I
other.
pictured it.
Yeah, they're just standing in the kitchen about, you know, and they're coming up.
I really wish they would have shown
Uh,
that picture.
I wish they would have
So
too,
there's
but
Do you
they
have
said
a
that
copy of that picture you want to send us to maybe Amy can
I don't
share it?
have it. They
right.
took
Okay.
that.
Oh,
They
that's
took
too
that.
bad.
Oh, they took it?
Yeah. So one of the things, we live near caverns and an aqueduct, and our house
Mm-hmm.
is built on limestone.
Yep.
So when they were
All
building the
records.
house, they were all conduits for whatever. So what she was saying off camera, that when they built the house, there was some type of crack in the foundation of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And these spirits are traveling through the caverns or the water or what have you, limestone, and they're coming up through the bottom of our house right into my kitchen, you know, type thing.
Oh.
And so that's
Ooh.
and so when she said that, I was like, oh my God, that's what Katrina said. You know, Katrina was like, they're coming to your house, and they're coming in. Katrina had told me, and I think that's the same thing Cindy told me. The only bad person that was pointed out was the butcher. The rest of them were
Mm-hmm.
just coming because they said, both of the people said, with Regan, Julia, and myself being in the same house, it
They were
was like a
attracted to
bright
you
light in
for
the darkness.
help.
So
Mm-hmm.
they're just coming.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
so that was
I
that.
think that was
Yeah.
Cindy's
So
main point was that with Donna and Reagan together, both having abilities, that
Mm-hmm.
really amped up this portal.
Yeah.
Actually opened it up, I
Sure.
guess. So that's how all the bad activity started. Yeah.
Fun started.
Oh my God.
good times. Yeah.
So Donna, Cindy had mentioned that you had this and passed it on. Did you have any experiences when you were little or, young?
When I was little, the only thing I remember is the night before my great grandmother had a major heart attack. I asked my like I said, my grandparents raised me. I said,
Mhm.
I asked my grandmother, she was putting me down to sleep, and I said, would you be sad if Mama Kibido, that's what we call her, Mama Kibido, died? And she was like, well, not if she was in pain, you know. So the next night she died, and she came to me and she said, what made you ask me that? And I said, I don't know. You know, I was like, I think five or six. And
Yeah.
my birth mother, I could always go. I would go to my grandmother. I would stand by the phone, and she'd say, "What's going on?" I said, "My mom's going to call," and she'd say, "What?" And I say, "Your mom," and then the phone would ring.
Oh,
So
Wow.
with Reagan, I have a connection with my mom. With Reagan and Julia, I have a connection, and
Mhm.
with my mother,
Hmm.
even though she didn't raise me, there was some weird connection between us that we kind of were on the same wavelength, and I could always predict when
sure,
she would come around and when she would call,
sure.
and so I never really revisited after that. But when we moved in here in 2004, other things happened, but I guess I just wrote it off as experiences anybody would have,
Right.
Right.
and stuff like
Yep.
that. But when we moved in here and I'm waking up and like there's people standing by my bed, and I'm like, every night I'm telling my
I
husband,
don't
I'm
like
waiting
that.
for him to lock me up in the loony bin, because every night I'm waking him up and saying, there's a guy standing over there. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm
Mm.
like, there is a
Hmm.
guy standing over there. And he'd be like, okay, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it was just,
Sure, honey.
yeah, okay, wink, wink, but he was very supportive at the same time. But that was one of the
Good.
things when they would come in the room at night. I didn't want to wake him up. He had to work the next day, and so I
Hmm.
would come
Hmm.
downstairs, and I would say,
Hmm.
well, I'll just let whatever it is follow me downstairs
Mm,
and let him get some sleep. But there was the instances where I was being touched
yeah,
inappropriately, and I remember
Hmm.
laying there going, am I feeling what I think I'm feeling? Because I'm about to get really pissed off right now.
yeah,
And
Hmm.
what they didn't show was me getting up out of bed and actually cussing the room out, and and things like that, and saying, "You don't get to touch me like that." I don't, whatever.
No.
And so it's
Hmm.
not like I was scared. I was mad.
yeah,
I was
Yeah.
past
Yeah.
being scared. I was sleep deprived. I was mad,
Right.
and I was like, "We're not doing this. I got to get some sleep. Dennis has
No.
got to get some sleep. Reagan's got to get some sleep."
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I have a question for Reagan. Reagan, in the reveal, and answer how you feel comfortable, but in the reveal, at one point, you're like, I feel like this is my fault and it's going after my mom and my dad. And, they showed that part, but and I know, I'm sure Donalyn and Dennis, you both were like, no, no, it's not.
Yeah,
But just
exactly.
wanted
Hmm.
to know how you're feeling about that, if you're still putting that weight of blame on yourself, or if you've kind of found ways to manage or work through that.
I would say after the show, my mom pretty quickly did the whole thing of calling the medium and her giving the instructions of what to do. And I
Hmm.
know that the activity decreased a lot, pretty quickly after the show. So no, I don't feel as bad anymore. I mean, I
good.
Good.
do. At the time, yes, I did, but now I think I definitely feel better about it.
Good.
Since
Good.
since then, I've moved out of the house, so I'm just glad that they feel much more comfortable in their own home and that they're doing better now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good.
Do you have any activity where you're at right now?
No, no, not really. We're good. My fiance is very, very very rational, and he's like I've never nothing's ever happened to me. I'm like, okay.
Next season on
I
the
know a
Dead
few
Files.
people.
That's how my husband
Yeah,
is too.
I know
The
a few people
only
like that, and then they go, "But I've had this, and this happen that I can't explain, but nothing's
Right.
happened."
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing he would say that like that would be different. He says he has dreams a lot more now
Mm.
Hmm.
than before, but he's like, but nothing scary or
See?
anything.
So someone's trying to talk to him.
My husband's the same. He's like, I went on a tour, nothing happened, so they're not real. And I'm like, okay, let's maybe just calm down a
I,
bit.
That's because they're not attached to you; they're attached to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'm a very rational person, also. But
Hmm.
and I'm not sensitive. I'm not sensitive. I hear things, uh, um, but I know Donna and the girls have seen some things, and I believe them. I have an open
Hmm.
mind about it. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, for myself, when I see something, even if it's weird, I just rationalize it. Even like,
Hmm.
all,
Right.
Dennis, do you work in like a science or engineering field? I know you were military.
Yeah, so I'm retired military, and now I'm a commercial estimator for a glazing company or a glass company. So,
Okay.
but
I'm just.
But
Well,
he
thank
does
you.
love engineering. He at one time he was going to be an
I
engineer, so he does
I
have
just
that
go
that
off
type
of
brain.
of
the.
yeah
mind. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
The
he's got
way that
that
you think
brain.
through.
yeah
It's so funny because it was like I could show like something levitating across the room and be like, "Look, babe, look, look, see, look, it's levitating." He'd be like, "Well, I don't know. That could be the camera angle, and it looks like a dust particle, and things like that." So it really wasn't. It didn't matter what I threw at him. It was like he would come up with
Hmm.
something. I'd be like, "You know what? Forget it."
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, but at the
Yeah.
same time, he never called me crazy. He just supported
Good.
me like you're crazy and I love you still,
no.
No, it's just there's a catch in our brains that tells us we have to find a logical
Yep.
explanation as to why it goes.
Sure.
So I have a science background, and I've had plenty of experiences, not quite like you two, but Dennis, I do often, and these two know with me. I'm like, well, could it have been something like
Sure.
this? I mean, just to
Yeah.
play devil's
And
advocate.
I'm the
Yeah.
exact opposite. I will believe whatever you
Yeah.
put in
And
front
I'm
of
somewhere
me.
in between.
And then
so
Amy is the middle. Yeah,
Mhm.
she's the middle. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a flying UFO. And someone's like, it's a plate that two strings are attached to. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I see it now. But I'm the worst. I'm
Yeah, I'll
every
believe
con
anything,
artist's
yeah. But
best
Reagan
friend.
is the hardest nut to crack, even though things are happening to her. What you didn't see off screen was that Reagan and Steve were arguing. And
oh,
I love
Steve
it.
was like,
Yes,
they were
yes,
going
we
at
were.
it. And Steve was like, are you going to do this?
He
And
was
Reagan
getting
was like,
mad at
well, I
me.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it. And Steve was like, they were going at it. And I was like,
He was like, I feel like you're not
trying to
taking it
rub
seriously.
Reagan's back, like, let it go, let it go, And Reagan, like, she wasn't backing down.
Good.
She was going to stand up. Like, if it happened to her, she was
Good.
like, I'll let her tell
Yes.
it. Like, if something happened to her,
Reagan,
she
you're an
was going to
older
say,
child too, aren't you?
yeah.
Well,
She's
they
the
kept
middle child
asking
for
me.
Oh.
Yeah, so they kept asking me, especially when they showed like the picture. So but the stories that I told were true. Like the presence that I felt that
Mhm.
was like really ominous and like all that stuff.
Mhm.
It
Yep.
was
Yep.
that was true. When they showed the picture though of like, me being smothered, in my bed and stuff like that. They kept asking me, like, do you feel like you're in danger, and I kept telling them, like, I was like, I've never felt like I'm in danger. Like, I've never
Right.
felt like someone's out to get me. I was like, I have
Mhm.
felt a presence who's very like watchful
Mhm.
and, I'm trying to get a word, but,
But
I was like, I have felt that, but I was like,
An
but I've never felt like in fear
intentional.
of my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never felt in fear of my life.
I
And
love it that you went against Steve
She did.
because in a million years I
yeah.
never
And
would.
Steve
So
Steve
was
they
would
the
be
kept
like, "Are
getting
you
mediator. I
mad.
mean,
scared?" And I'm like,
Cindy was the mediator. She kept going, I get it, I get it, I get it,
Yeah.
I get it.
Because he
I
kept
get it.
coming back
She's
at me.
like,
He
I
was like,
have a
well, this guy's
scientific
trying
mind
to kill
too.
you. He's out for your life. Like, he was like, he's after you. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. And I was like, I'm just telling you, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, like, yeah, no, I'm in fear of my
right.
life.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
And
Well, good for
Yeah.
you.
he was
You
like,
you shouldn't be
yeah.
forced to
Good for
lie,
you. Stand up to Steven.
Steve.
Reagan, I feel like we'd be friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Steve would be like, this color's purple and it's blue, and I'd be like, it's purple, Steve, because he's got like that Brooklyn, like no nonsense, and Brooklyn, kind
Yeah.
of.
And Cindy would be like, it's okay, both of you, it's pink. It would be like, that would be Cindy.
That's
She
me.
was
That's
like,
my
it's
role.
okay, it's okay. Yeah. So yeah, but they were all great. I think they
Mhm.
cared. And I was
Awesome.
really, and one of the other things that they cut out when they said that, Joe the Butcher was after Reagan, I immediately said, you have to go. And I didn't mean it like you got to go because you brought Joe the Butcher. I meant like you have to go because I didn't want her life to be in danger
Yeah.
living here in the
Right.
house.
Of
And
course.
for months before the showing, it haunted me. I was like, oh my God, are they gonna
They're gonna make it
post
look like
that
I'm
I
kicking my
said
daughter out.
you gotta go, you gotta get out of my
I was like,
house,
fine.
Get
Yeah.
out. Take the butcher with you.
And then Reagan
Yeah.
records
See
that
how
and
it
uses
is?
it for evidence against you every time.
Pack both your bags, get out, so yeah, but I was like really worried about that. I was like, oh my God, are they going to show that? And then they really edited it to where it was very respectful, I
Good.
think, to all of us,
Good.
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
It was
It
great.
was, yeah. I mean, one thing we will
Good.
say
Except for
about the
Dennis's
show is
fall,
They
which
showed it
they
a
said
couple
they
times too
recorded.
many. Yes.
yeah.
4 or 5
Yes.
times.
Well,
I
I was like,
counted.
can we?
Because
Yeah,
I
and
watched
like,
it this
I was
and they
like,
morning.
would show it.
please don't show it anymore.
They would show it once and then instantly show it again. And I'm like, can I stop watching this poor man plummet down
Oh
and
my
get
Well,
knocked
God.
unconscious? I
the
get it.
first time I was
Get it.
watching you falling, and then after that, then I wanted to watch the ladder. So like the last time I
ladder.
watched it, I was looking at the ladder the whole time, and you're falling this way, but I'm looking at the ladder to see how it's moving because I thought it had buckled. I thought the whole thing had buckled, but I could
Mm-mm.
see it was still straight. It just went like that.
It
Yeah.
was
So
like
I'm glad
pushed.
that it was shown a few times, but I couldn't watch you falling off of it
Oh, I
that
would have
much. It
just
was
rewound it.
so
Yeah.
hard.
I
The
zoomed
first
in
time,
on the leg because Steve had said,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's
yeah.
what he did. He zoomed in on the one
Yeah. The
leg.
one ladder leg. Yeah.
So I watched Dennis. I went back a few times and I watched Dennis what he was doing at that time, and then I expanded it and I saw where it looks like the leg is literally kicked
Kicked. Yep.
out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, because even when they told me that, I was still like, I don't know, and then I watched it and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it literally looks like
That's,
somebody was
yeah.
underneath or beside the ladder and kicked
Yep.
that leg out.
Kick the leg
Well,
out.
and how
Yeah.
easily
Yeah.
that
When,
it did, because obviously your weight was dispersed equally on the step that you were on. Your legs were, you had the bend in the knees, so they weren't locked out. Like, it's not like you had the shakes or anything all of a sudden. You had I also coached, and I coached running form, so I watched body language and stuff a lot. So that's why I'm picking up on all this. But I just watched the way that your feet were set, and then it's almost like the ladder pivots really like
Yeah.
quick. And then I didn't even pay attention to what happened to the ladder afterwards, if it was still standing or if it got kicked off to the side. But I also looked at, that's a sidewalk you're on. It's not like you're on the, like
yeah.
my neighbor a couple weeks ago was blowing the leaves out of his gutter, and he was on this little A-frame ladder that was maybe 4 feet high, and he was standing up and he fell off of it because it was on uneven ground and he was on the top rung. Like, he was fine, but that was
Mhm.
uneven ground and off balance and everything that he was doing. Like, literally you could see a leg in the air when he was standing on it, but yours was not.
Yeah. No. It was,
And if you do
I just,
zoom in, you will see that leg. Go ahead,
no. I
babe.
was
I'm
just saying
sorry.
the ladder was stable. I mean, I was on the
Mm-hmm.
sidewalk there, so it's just a freak thing. I don't. I mean, I mean, I
yeah.
Freak named
Dennis.
Joe the Butcher.
Donalyn's like, we just talked ourselves into a circle here.
Dennis.
Exactly.
What did we say?
yeah,
Exactly.
Just teasing, Dennis. Just
yeah.
teasing. So, Donalyn, you write romance. Are you gonna mix in some horror now that
Yeah, you
you
could have a
got that?
ghost
I
love
think I
story.
did that already. Yeah, that's one thing that I have a book that's almost it's ready for release, and we're just in like the third round edits, and I haven't been able to do it because now I'm thinking about going in a different direction, and with not horror but more paranormal, like
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
the red brick house at the end of the road type thing, with my
Yeah.
experiences here. Because other than what happened with Dennis and the touching and things like that,
Mhm.
and being choked, and just being creeped
Gross.
out by hearing things, your name being called or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Amy's got that.
Yeah, it's not all negative. You know what I mean? Like it's been,
Yeah.
Yep.
it's been quite the, people. Like I tell Dennis all the time, I get a lot of soldiers, and I'll tell Dennis, there's a soldier here. Can you talk to him and pass him on? And things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
my son is also he's Army,
Okay.
and Julia. So when I have certain instances, I've actually said, can you go up in the room and talk to this guy that's up there because I think he's having issues with going on. And so
Mm-hmm.
my whole family's been supportive, and so I do like that aspect of it, being able to help people.
Yeah.
But I don't ever see myself maybe soliciting people. But if like I had a
For
DoorDash
sure.
driver come, and her dad like showed up,
Oh.
and I was sitting here with this DoorDash driver, and I was like, you're gonna think I'm crazy,
But
and and so I did this whole thing, and she had moved down here from the East Coast, and inherited her dad's house and was having a lot of issues with it. And she's like, just going through, and I said, long story short, it ended up with her dad saying, tell her to go home under the bed on my side of the bed, up near the headboard and the nightstand, underneath the bed. There's something that will help her. And she says, is it papers? And I go, she said, is it money? And I said, I feel like it's papers, but I don't know if it's money. So she took my phone number and she left, and she goes, I'm going to go home right now. I'm going off and I'm going to go home. And so she texted me a picture of the Bible. She went home and she reached under where I said, and she pulled out the Bible. And her dad had the Bible underneath the bed on that side, open to a passage. I can't recall the verse or the chapter, but it was something like, don't worry, your brothers are with you, or something like that.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, so I won't go out of my way to do anything, but when something like that came in, I do like being able to help somebody like that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
For sure. She probably really appreciates that too. I mean, knowing that her dad is with her is always,
he was.
You know, it's nice.
And he looked like Santa Claus too, and I said, I'm seeing like Santa Claus. And she pulled up a picture of her dad, and he had the rosy cheeks and the nose and everything. And so I was like, wow, that's crazy. So even for me, I'm still having a hard time not thinking I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's still one of the, and I think with Regan, it's the same thing. Regan and I have always, when Regan was young, we would go places, and you know, back in the day, the digital cameras with the SIM cards, you take a picture, would preview on the screen. We would go somewhere with Regan and take a picture, and Regan would have just orbs, but she always had this one orb right here, this same size every time right here. And
probably your grandmother.
Well, I don't know if she had passed all the way back then, but she would just have hundreds of orbs around her. And so we would like test it and like switch out people, take the same position, same nothing. But with Regan, wherever we went, she was just surrounded.
Wow.
Surrounded by orbs.
Wow.
Yeah, so I knew something was magical happening with her, you know.
Yeah.
So, Regan,
I know you're magical.
Well, you did call her your sparkly child.
She's my unicorn.
She did say that.
I wanted to ask Regan if you have, like Cindy was saying, that you can't just ignore your ability. You have to either hone it or turn it off. And I'm wondering if you've been able to do one or the other, or
I guess I could say I kind of turned it off. I don't, I haven't gone to talk to a medium or anything like that. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm just so incredibly busy these days. I just don't have time.
You're busy?
So, yeah. So,
I don't understand.
I guess at this point, I've kind of just turned it off.
Okay.
Sure.
That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I feel, and like I said in the show too, like I feel like if I did like really try and hone my abilities or really put a lot more effort into it, I kind of a little bit afraid of like what would happen.
That's understandable.
So I kind of
and you don't owe it to anybody.
Yeah. You got to do what's right for you.
Your decision. Yeah, for sure.
However, if you pass it along, you might be able to help somebody else later in life.
Yeah.
Or be able to pay attention for those signs.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Riggs, they can edit this out, but that's one thing we were talking about. It wasn't just, Regan had moved back. Regan was living on her own with her daughter and stuff like that, and when they moved back in. And so it was actually, Julia was coming over all the time, so it was Regan, Julia, myself, and Marceline, Regan's daughter. So there was actually 4 of us in the same house.
So just a lot of energy.
Oh my gosh, you were shining.
Yeah, so one thing, I don't know.
You were like the sun to those spirits.
Yeah, so one of the things Regan had told me, I don't know if she wants to tell the story of what Marcy did when she was little, when she was on the phone with her dad.
No, that was so funny.
Yeah,
so
funny,
we were
horrifying, but okay.
Well, we were FaceTiming, and so it was like me and Marcy together. We're FaceTiming her dad. We're upstairs and in the upstairs living room. And like as she's talking to Marcus, her dad, she just randomly, she's like going in circles, like talking to him. And she like stops And she like looks in my parents' room, and their doors are open, but their lights are off, so it's just like a pitch black, room or whatever. And she stops, she looks in there, and she is like, "Hey, do you see that guy?" And we're both like, "No." And she was like, "Yeah." So she starts walking into the room, and she's like, "You don't see him?"
Holy cow!
And she has her dad on the phone, like the camera, and so she like takes the phone with her, and she just like walks into the room, like this pitch black room, and she's standing in the middle of it. I'm waiting. I'm in the living room, like just waiting there.
She is braver than me.
And she walks in there, and she's talking to her dad, and she's like, "Daddy, you don't see him? Like, you don't see that man like right there?" And he's like, "No, Marcy, I don't see that man right there." and I'm kind of like laughing. I'm just like, what the heck, like whatever. And she just keeps saying it over and over again. Like, she's like, "You can't see him, he's standing right there." And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Regan, can you come get the phone?" Like, and he's like, "I'm just seeing blackness, like the black room." And I was like, "Marcy, I was like, get out of there. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, come back over here." And she's like, "But I see him." And I was like, we're not going to talk about it anymore. There's no one there.
Oh, yeah. It runs in the family, so that makes sense.
So no stranger danger is what you're saying.
Yeah, she's
exactly.
far braver than me.
Don't ever do that again.
Because I'd be like, "Oh, there's a man in there," and I'd go the other way.
Don't go and talk to strangers.
She walked in that room by herself. I was like,
brave little girl.
But
no, she's braver than me.
Exactly.
So I'd be like, "I'm done."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she would come into Grandma and Grandpa's room at night, and say somebody was in the corner of her room. And I finally talked to her one night, and I said, but have they ever hurt you, or anything like that? She's like, no. She finally started staying in there. And I kind of figured that room is like, it's before Regan and Marcy moved in, it was an office, and it had all of Dennis's military memorabilia and some of my grandfather's stuff too. And so the desk in there is actually, I'm 55. The desk has got to be like 70, 80 years old. And it was my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And that's the room.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the room that I would smell the cigar smoke. When I would get up in the middle of the night and walk by the office, I would smell that smoke. And so I figured it was my grandfather at his desk, or something. But I didn't want to tell her that, I was just like, I'm sure, whoever's in there, they've never hurt you. They're probably watching out for you. But of course, Grandma and Grandpa are never going to turn down snuggles with the grandbaby,
Yeah.
Oh,
so we're throwing the covers back and going, "Get in here,"
Yeah.
So, but at the other house, she's doing okay. And I did smell the smoke just a couple of nights ago. I came downstairs, and as I came down, I could smell it, and I was like, "Hey, Grandpa," And what was crazy? Here's the crazy part that you didn't see on camera. So my grandfather chewed tobacco. He wasn't like a redneck hick or anything. Well, he was, but not like that. But he was a business guy. He was a retired civil service and everything. But he chewed tobacco, and he had this spit can. But he was very. I almost say he was a fashionista for his time. He wore the suits, and he just always looked really great. But he chewed tobacco, and but on Sundays he would smoke a cigar or his pipe. But it was only on Sundays when I was around after they adopted me. It so happens that the day that Cindy came to do the investigation, the walkthrough, that she saw him was a Sunday. Yeah. And she said he lit up a cigar.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Nice.
That's so cool. And speaking of Cindy, now we've heard in the past, at least the last few episodes, that Amy did her walk before Steve got there. Was Cindy there before or after when Steve was there?
After.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing. So they came here to do the show with Amy. Okay? And then something happened and the show got postponed. So Steve had come down to do the investigation, or everybody had come down, and then everything got postponed.
Okay.
And so I don't know how much they did that time, but then I knew they had gone on some site visits, but then later I got a call saying Cindy was going to be taking over.
Okay.
So when they came back down that time, Cindy came in cold. I mean, it's,
sure,
and did the walkthrough before Steve had actually, We hadn't done any interviews whatsoever with Steve.
Hmm.
He had, I think
Okay.
they were just doing like the background of the city and
Got
things
it.
like that, and talking to people like that. But there had been no personal interviews done or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay.
So did Amy actually come to your house, or did she just come into town? Did you meet her or anything?
No, we didn't meet Amy.
From what I understand, yeah, we didn't meet her. Is that she came to town and came to the house, but it didn't happen type
Okay.
thing. I don't know everything that happened. I just, that I could be saying wrong, but you know, it was just one of those things where I know they came, and then I got a call saying, you know, we're gonna have to postpone it. And then the next thing I knew, Cindy was taking over. So
Okay.
it was a bummer because I really wanted to meet Amy, but I think the most important thing for Amy is doing what's important for Amy.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
she doesn't know anybody anything. She doesn't know me anything. She doesn't know herself. You know, and
Yep.
her health, and you know, I follow her, and the main thing I want for her is happiness.
Yep.
So it was. Even if they never would have come to my house, even if the Dead Files would have been canceled and it never would have happened again, it would have been most important that I know that everybody was happy, especially Amy. I don't want anybody to get hurt or,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
do anything that's gonna happen. You know, her, she's important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's, I guess it's the same order, right, Donna? I mean, so it's normally, yeah. So Cindy did come in that Sunday, and then we did the interviews after that,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
We've heard both ways on some of them, but it sounded like more and more that they were starting to do more of the walkthrough before
Steve
and
gets
then
there,
then Steve comes in, even though they show you being interviewed
No,
as
you're
11
right.
hours earlier.
I think Steve came in and was doing whatever he needed to do, whatever with what the producers had talked to me about or us
Okay.
about.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were coming in
Mm-hmm.
and researching all of that, and he was doing
Yeah.
maybe sit down. They don't tell
Mm-hmm.
you what's going
Yeah.
on. They just kind of say, show up and we're going to do this, you know.
Yeah.
So the order, but I do think you're right. I do think it was one of those things where they got our information and they started investigating that type of thing, the area.
Yep.
And then Cindy came in, and then Steve was here, but then they did our interview.
Okay.
Okay. So did you?
And then the sit down.
Did you end up having to go like to a hotel or something for a night or two while Cindy was doing the
We
walk
did.
and all that?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's what the craziest
Nice.
part was, is they had, the producer had called and said, I'm going to have you talk to Steve before we go down there. So they did a 3-way call with Steve, and he basically said, we're not going to show it with just one guy with a camera. Like, there's going to be a lot of people in your house.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay. So I still didn't get it till it happened.
Yeah.
And there was literally like 25, 30 people in my house with lights outside, you know.
It was a lot of people. It's like 15, 20, yeah.
There was like white
wow.
vans up and down my street with electrical cords. I think we blew the circuits here a couple of times, you know.
Oops.
And my neighbors, you know, like, what the hell's going on at that house? And the producer had told me, he said, we're not going to tell anybody what's happening. So if any of your neighbors come over, you know, we're just going to tell them we're shooting a mayonnaise commercial or something. So later I found out one of my neighbors did come over and say, hey, what's going on there? Like, we're shooting a mayonnaise commercial. And I was like, it literally looked like the FBI had all these vans parked out.
Oh my God, a mayonnaise commercial.
And it was so cold that they
you couldn't come up with a better excuse.
I would have come out with something way more elaborate.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had the cords coming in and out of the front. So it had been so hot before they came.
Mm-hmm.
And it had been like 80s and 90s. And then I had told the producer, I said, Jeremy, I said, look at the weather before you come, because you're coming, was it, babe, February? Was it February,
It was
March?
February, yeah. Beginning of February.
Okay.
Yeah. I said, when in Texas, when it hits February, you could be playing soccer and football in your shorts in December and January, but come February and March, look at the weather because that's when we get our cold.
Okay.
And so
Yep.
when
Okay.
they got here, it was freezing. And that's why I had the shawl on because they had cords outside the door and it was
So
freezing
the doors
inside
were
the
open.
house.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, it was
Well, I
so
remember
cold.
thinking you looked really cute, and I loved your shawl, so it worked. I mean, you looked adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was curious as to what time of year it was shot because we know that other ones were more like September, October timeframe, which would explain why there was such a delay in the second half of this season coming out in September rather than the rest in June.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and back to what we were wearing when Julia was going to be in the show, because they did interview Julia, my other one. And so we were sitting at the table with Jeremy, and he was like, okay, so this is what you can wear, and this is what you can't wear. And you can't wear plaid, and only one of you can wear black. So Julia, my youngest, my baby, she goes, that's me, I'm wearing black. And of course, she's the thinnest of all of us. Like, you don't get to call black. You don't get to call black.
Sorry, vetoed.
Yeah. So, but she said, I wear black. And so Regan and I had to come up with something else to wear. But Regan's thin anyway. But for me, I'm mom seniority and the biggest of them all. So I wanted black, but I didn't get it. But then they cut Julia out completely, and she was completely in black. You
So
know,
you
and it
could
was
have
like,
worn black.
Unfair.
That's not fair.
I'm gonna hold that one over Julia for a while there.
Yeah. And she moved to Colorado too, so that's one thing with her, with Reagan moving out and Marcy not being here, and Julia moving to Colorado. It's just, and see, Julia's a little instigator. Let me tell you about Julia. So when we lived in Virginia, she always wanted to go to the battlefields and do all these things, and she was convinced the house was haunted. And then, but she was like, "Mom, calm down. Nothing's going on at the house." And then when she moved to Colorado, she moved right by a cemetery. I'm like, you're looking for trouble, kid. But she's a lot of fun.
I like Julia too, like.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Dennis, I do have one question for you because I know that this kind of came up in the reveal too, and you kind of lamented that I didn't know this was going on with Regan, and I felt like I haven't talked to my daughter a lot in the last however long it was. Do you feel differently now?
Which just broke my heart.
Yeah.
It just broke my heart.
I would love to talk to my girls more often, but after when the episode came out, Reagan was over here, and we kind of had a little watch it all together kind of party, and she saw that and she said, "No, Dad, we talk enough," But
yeah. So what I'm hearing is Reagan call your dad.
I think we
just
talked plenty.
teasing Reagan.
Yeah.
Reagan's like, I'm actually going to call.
Yeah, no, I always want to talk to the kids more, so I don't talk to my son enough,
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing Reagan. I'm just giving you a hard time.
He could talk to his kids every day for hours, which he does with Julia.
It must be a dad thing.
Oh yeah, he's really like that. But he could talk to them every day for hours, and he'd still be like, I need to talk to him more. And I'd be
my
like,
dad's that way
I talk
too.
to my kids like once every 3 months, and I'm like, wait, why are you calling me? What do you need? I'm busy.
Oh my God, you're my dad, and Dennis is my mom.
Why are you calling me? What do you want? Like, I'm taking
multiple
a nap.
times a day. Yeah. And I call my dad, and he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, can I just talk to you? And he goes, no, what do you want? And I'm like, okay.
About $1,000 in cash, please.
Yeah.
I'm always like awkward. I'm like, hey. And they're like, hey, Mom, what are you up to? I'm like, nothing. And I'm like, want to talk to your dad? And they're like, yeah, I guess,
You're like, hey, you, what's up?
We have a family Snapchat group going on and a family text chain, and there's a lot of memes that go back and forth, and we just have conversations in memes. My brother, sister, and parents and I. Yep.
That's fun.
We do that.
I don't know how people communicated before memes and I don't
hieroglyphics.
know. Like we had to use real words.
Smoke signals.
What is this? Yeah, smoke signals. Yeah.
Well, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to be sure our listeners and viewers, whatever, know about your experience or about what's going on or what's not going on?
I
Or about your book coming out?
No, well, for me, I just want to say how grateful I am, to the Dead Files and to everybody putting it all together, and really with Cindy and Steve. I mean, it was a great experience. It really was. It was awesome.
Right.
And I'm not sensitive, and I know all the stuff that was happening, but to get it all in that that 1 week, that few days period, and to get to see the show, kind of put it all together. It's like, oh wow, there's more than I thought was going on. And that's really what I meant when I said I don't talk to Regan enough. Is there was more than I thought was going on. So
Right.
it was good to see it and to get all that help. So that was cool.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome.
And I just
And Jay, or not?
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, when we built the house, and especially when we were putting in the pool, like I said earlier with the Poltergeist movie, I was like, we live on Comanche or Cherokee. What is it, babe? I'm sorry.
It's Comanche and
Is
Apache.
it Cherokee or Comanche? Comanche.
Comanche and Apache is that area.
Yes, Comanche and Apache.
Yeah. So Cibolo, their town, means buffalo, and so before we built the house, I talked to an elder outside of Oklahoma, and he gave me a lot of history on the area and things like that. And I was really surprised. So that's the only thing that I really wanted to give a shout out to the Native Americans that were in this area, that their tribes are in this area, and things like that, that, be respectful of this land. And, that's one thing that I came to peace with because I was seeing the same Native American here repeatedly. And I kind of made peace with that here and did some things that the elder told me to do. And I just kind of still feel like for this area, after reading the history, that's one thing is like, just don't ignore that. If you move into an area that this type of battles happened and blood was shed, that you need to be respectful of that area and pay homage,
100%.
honor it, and respect it, and give a
Absolutely.
shout out or prayer or whatever you got to do, to the area. And that's what we do, the incense, and we have wind chimes and everything like that out there to pay homage to the area.
That's great.
That's beautiful.
Nice.
Building over it, not acknowledging it, isn't going to make it not have happened. Isn't going to make it not exist. So, and Dennis, I do want to thank both you and your son for your service. Thank you so much for doing that for our country. I'm just really appreciative of you guys.
It's an honor to serve. Thank you very much, though.
What branch were you in?
I did 31 years in the Air Force, and my son's in the Army. He's been in, I think, 15 years now. So.
Okay.
So was it really interesting to find out that your house is a former airfield and there was a Tuskegee Airman that passed away not far from there?
That's really cool, actually. The Tuskegee Airman. It's So I worked at Randolph for many years, and that's the Air Force base that's nearby, and so. And I was a superintendent of a flying training group, and one of our squadrons was a former Tuskegee squadron. So I had that. So I have that connection to Tuskegee Airmen, and to find out, that one crashed and died here wasn't great, but it's the way they told the story was, I thought, very respectful and very honorable. So.
Yeah,
especially because Steve was in the military, so I think he has a soft spot for that.
Steve is super cool. I like him a lot.
Yeah,
so
he really is.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I thought the way that they described through the spatial disorientation, just kind of talking through how your senses get thrown off, and another way for people to connect maybe is a little bit with Simone Biles when she was having some of her where she was having some of that spatial disorientation, and she was afraid she couldn't land, and that's why. So, that was a similar thing. Obviously, much more dire when you're in a plane and you're losing oxygen.
Right. It was definitely.
But
it reminds me of, I don't remember the exact name of it, but there was a flight school in Florida where they were going out on it was in like maybe the 70s. I'm fuzzy on the details, and they were going out for like their last flight training, and they all got lost. They think it was that spatial
The disorientation.
Oh my God,
Right. That is,
thank you. And so they all got lost, and then they sent more people out to look for them, and those people got lost too. I can't remember the name of it. I'm so sorry. I'm so vague, but it was a big I think it's in the Bermuda Triangle or close to
it's in the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, that's a well documented case of a whole squadron of aircraft that were lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's just so interesting and so heartbreaking that all of those people were lost and bless their hearts. I'm sure they thought they were doing what they could do. So it's happened. It's happened. And anyway, way to bring
Well,
it
did
down,
y'all see
Megan.
the special with Cindy Cause and Steve Shippey? Because they touch on that Bermuda Triangle airfield plane crash, the flight of whatever.
Loss of
Yes.
Flight 19.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's it.
that
Yes.
deals with that right
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah.
There have been multiple podcasts on it, and it's an interesting. The Bermuda Triangle is interesting. I'll say that.
That was December 5th of 1945.
Oh.
No, there was another one
So
in
I
the
was
70s. There was
You're
one
only
in the
30 years off.
70s. It
You
was
were.
yeah, look at the
Only
Steve
thir-
Shippey specials with Cindy
Okay.
Cause. There's that one.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you, Donalyn, for
Validated.
There you go.
Finally.
only took 38 years. Well, thank you
Thank you all
again
so much,
everybody.
Yes.
for joining.
We're so grateful that you agreed. We loved your show, and we're glad that
Yeah,
it seems
thank
to have settled
you.
for you.
Yes,
That's the most
absolutely.
important thing, that you're able to be happy
Absolutely.
in your home, because that's your safe
Absolutely.
haven.
Thank you
So,
guys very much. Thank you. This was fun.
Y'all
All
been
right.
awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you so
welcome.
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you. You
Have
too.
a great
All
rest
right.
of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Next time we will be recapping. We're going to record in person, and we're going to watch the episode together, and then we are going to talk about it after that. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. And I don't know the name of the episode. I haven't seen that far ahead. Can you see that, Amy?
Season 15, episode 8,
Oh yeah,
Chaos in the Canyon.
Okay.
And it is Lisa and her husband poured their blood, sweat, and tears into their California home, but renovations seem to have to angered a malevolent force, putting their lives in serious danger. Out of options, Lisa turns to Cindy and Steve to save her family.
Because of the renovations, it always stirs them up.
Sure does.
You know, I saw somebody asking about this on Cindy's. Actually, I don't know if it's this one, but they were asking about, when are you going to do the California episode? Because I went there after you did, and I definitely saw some and experienced some of the same things you did. It was on Cindy's Facebook post about the Butcher episode.
Oh. Huh.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will see if I can track down that owner. I just got lucky with Donalyn. She had a unique name, and I Googled the name and romance author, and I found her on Facebook, and her author page on Facebook, and it had her email address. So I emailed her. So hopefully I can find Lisa and who is it? What's the guy's name?
It just says her husband.
Oh, okay.
Chris.
Maybe I can find her.
Where did I get Chris from? I don't know.
Did it say maybe it is Chris? Maybe you just somehow know that.
Maybe.
Does it say where they are? Are they in Texas also?
It just says California.
Oh, it is California. Okay. Okay. Well,
Okie
I'll
dokie.
try and find them.
So might as well have been like the most common name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In one of the biggest states.
Right.
Yep.
I'm sure I can find Lisa in California. It should be no problem. There can't be that many.
Should be easy.
Can't be that many.
Yeah.
No. Probably no
You're
more
going to
than
start your
5.
own PI business, right?
What was that?
No more than.
You're going to start your own PI business, right?
Yep. If I could find her, then I should, because I'd be pretty good at it.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk more
See you
about
later.
Friday, but have a good week.
All right. Sounds good, ladies.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of the Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.